If you're a regular watcher or listener of IMNSHOW, which is my not so humble opinion, or in my not so humble opinion, show where I get to talk about something that interests me, or in some cases, I do exactly this, which is a live podcast recording session with one of my guests. That's exactly what I'm doing today, and I've got a really special guest to bring on, and I'd like to introduce you to him right now. All right, so on screen with me is someone I'm really dying to talk to about the whole personal branding area, because he's not a sales guy. He's not an artist or a musician. He is a professional athlete who actually works with professional athletes. And there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. So I want to get started right away by introducing everybody to Amobi Okugo. Now, Amobi, can you give us about 30 seconds about your professional background? Because I think it's really interesting, especially for those of us who have not exactly attained elite status when it comes to athletics, if you know what I mean.
No, well, yeah, most definitely. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to connect with you again. 30 seconds. Here we go. Amobi Okugo. I'm a first generation Nigerian American. Been playing soccer since I went to UCLA back in 2009. Had the fortunate pleasure of going pro after my freshman year. Since then, got originally drafted in Philadelphia, bounced around, signed a new contract with Orlando, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Orlando, and spent the last 3 years with Austin. Outside of that, I'm very interested in sports business, which is what we're probably going to get into a little bit of Frugal Athlete, which is an online financial media platform that helps athletes make, manage, and multiply their money through financial education and athlete empowerment.
Well, that's a very concise 30 seconds on that, but there's a lot behind it. And I've had the pleasure of being on your podcast, and I remember talking to you about how you got really turned on to the fact that athletes, especially pro athletes, were facing real problems post athletic career. Can you talk about that a little bit? And like, as I recall, there was kind of a single thing that you saw on ESPN that got your attention and really drove home the need for professional athletes to start thinking a little bit more frugally, if you will. Take it away, Amobi.
Yeah, most definitely. So, sports are the only thing guaranteed to end in divorce. So for athletes, how do you prepare while you have the most leverage from a capital perspective, from a career perspective, from a network perspective, from a brand perspective, to make sure that you can, in my philosophy, live like a prince forever rather than a king for a short period of time, or a queen forever, or princess, or a queen for a short period of time, or a princess forever. And that philosophy has kind of helped sparked me for some of the things that I've done. Knowing sports isn't going to last forever. And instead of allowing sports to use you, use sports as a vehicle for the other passions that you have in life for you to figure out your next game. My dad told me when I was a rookie, like immediately after I got drafted, he said, "You're closer to the end of your career than the start of it." And I was looking at him like, I literally just got drafted. What are you talking about? And that's the mindset you kind of have as an athlete. Obviously, you got to do what you got to do to perform and, hopefully extend your career as long as possible. But in the back of your mind, you got to, you're one play away, one coaching decision away, one injury away from it being taken away from you. So how are you leveraging your status as a professional athlete, as an elite athlete, for a life to come?
Yeah, I tell you, when you cited some statistics to me that were mentioned in the ESPN 30 for 30 segment called Broke, it kind of shocked me. I mean, I'm on the ESPN site. I'm on the ESPN site right now looking at the write-up for that specific 30 for 30 episode. And it says, according to a 2009 Sports Illustrated article, 60% of former NBA players are broke within 5 years of retirement. By the time they've been retired for 2 years, 78% of former NFL players have gone bankrupt or are under financial stress. Wow. I mean, we all know, and I think many of us think that, well, you make it to the league, then you're probably pulling down some significant coin that'll take care of not only you, but your extended family for the rest of your life. And That does not appear to be the case. Now, we always hear the success stories. We hear
Mhm.
about the empires that people like Magic Johnson build, or LeBron James and things like that. But what we don't hear are the stories about, let's call them the journeyman, or just regular mid-level players that can have a successful career, can make significant dollars, but they don't really reach that elite superstar status. All of a sudden, and they've worked to get to that status. They've worked their entire lives to get there. Many of them foregoing things like a university degree, or advanced certifications in everything from accounting to finance or anything else like that. So all of a sudden they're left out there in the open, literally to fend for themselves, because I don't think the leagues do a very good job with aftercare when it comes to athletes. So if I'm understanding what you offer, you are that aftercare, or at least a consultant that, one, understands what the athlete is all about in terms of mentality, in terms of their sunk costs, in terms of their career, and everything else. But you've also started to create products and services to help them out, so that post-career they can have a successful life that is actually leveraging the brand that they started to create while they were athletes, right?
Oh, yes, sir. So that's exactly what we do with the Frugal Athlete. Obviously, we have a media component where we highlight, athletes and key stakeholders that help athletes, manage their money in a prudent financially way, and highlight those stories because, like you said, not every athlete is going to be at that elite level, like a Magic Johnson, a LeBron James, a Serena Williams, but athletes of that middle class caliber can leverage for a life well spent. So we try to highlight those stories from the media aspect. Then on the consulting side, we want to show roadmaps and provide products and services that include, courses, curriculums, templates that we provide, some financial coaching. We're not financial advisors, but we can coach and help the behavior around their finances and help them learn more about financial literacy so they can ask better questions, so they can stay naturally curious, so they can get expert help in the areas that they may want to pursue after they're done playing, or even while they're currently playing, just to help avoid those statistics as you mentioned earlier. 60% of NBA athletes, 78% of NFL athletes. The list goes on and on. Across the sports, whether you're niche, whether you're in a major sport, it's tough because you're making money and you have the upkeep of what you're spending at that moment, but you don't know that you got to keep that all throughout once you're done playing. And there's a number of other different factors that are involved, bad financial decisions, spending, upkeep, bad financial advisors, bad investments, emotional blackmail, all these different things that, go under the rug that, a lot of people don't see on the outside.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by all of this because the whole idea of frugality, well, number one, frugal is a word that I don't think a lot of people really understand, because
Yeah.
it's not about being cheap. It's
Thank you.
about being responsible. It's not about being uh, parsimonious, or, just hoarding. It's about making the most of what you have and also living well within your means. Is that the definition that you kind of use when you use the word frugal in your a frugal athlete platform kind of concept?
Yes, and like you hit the nail on the head. You should definitely we got to make you a brand ambassador
Yeah,
because
well,
that's
there you go. Well, I'm certainly not going
exact
to be a pro athlete. I will tell you that.
that's exactly what we try to emphasize with frugal because a lot of people immediately think of, oh, you're just cheap. And no, a frugal is how are you most efficient with what you have? How are you economical? How are you prudent? And I like what you said. How are you responsible? Because frugal is maximizing the opportunity that you have, whether it's from a capital perspective, whether it's from a career perspective, whether it's from a brand perspective. And as athletes, we hit the trifecta with all those different things in most cases. And sometimes we're cheap, but we need to change the mindset and be frugal with that. And that's what we try to promote. That's what we try to emphasize, and that's our mission.
So that ESPN 30 for 30 episode, that was the kind of aha light bulb goes off in your head. Walk me through the process from that point where you said, "Wow, this is a big opportunity. It's a big challenge. But on the opposite side of that challenge coin is opportunity for you specifically." And, we've all heard about there's riches in the niches, Pat Flynn's favorite thing to say. And so you've niched down significantly. Do you
Yeah.
deal with like college sports, or is it only pro level, elite level sports that you're most interested in for your business and your activity?
So yeah, if we were to do like a business analysis or a SWOT analysis, our target demographic would be high school, college, and middle class athletes. So middle class athletes are athletes and in the niche sports that aren't in the top leagues, or athletes that are making a certain criteria or certain compensation. Obviously, when it comes to the bigger athletes, we hopefully are trying to get them at the younger level, like before they hit their second contract. Because once they hit their second contract, there's levels to it. They're going to have to deal with, financial advisors, wealth managers, tax attorneys. Not to say that all these other athletes aren't don't need those, but it's just a different pay scale, a different level. And what we are preaching, it might be a waste of their time. So our target demographic is high school, college, young professional athletes, middle class professional athletes. How are they able to maximize the capital that they're making, leverage the network that they have, and make proper career decisions that can help leverage their careers long after they're done playing?
Well, that's interesting because people might think initially that that's a pretty tight niche or niche. But in the reality, the more I think about it, I'm going, oh, wow, you could have programs that are geared towards highly performing high school aged athletes to prepare them before the money starts coming in, to at least create the mindset. And again, it might be a program that colleges could actually support for their incoming athletes to give them a certain foundation of financial literacy to prepare them for what could come after. Because one of the things American education is terrible about is educating kids of any age, of any interest, on how to take care of themselves financially. So even though you're focusing specifically on athletes, you've got that high school level, then you've got the college verging on elite level, which again, they need to do things like, how can you assess the value of the scholarships you might be offered? How do you might go to the prettiest campus and go, oh, that's where I want to go, when that may not be in your best interest financially, depending on things. So there could be some consulting there. And then you've got the pro level too. So all of a sudden right there, I'm going, wow, your business model could have 3 distinct tiers with programs that are absolutely laser focused for each, that now gives you not this narrow niche, but this deep vertical sector that you can mine for your business and your personal brand. Because again, here on the Nonfiction Brand podcast, we like to talk about things from the small business and personal brand perspective. And my perspective is they're the same damn thing. Because let's face it, Amobi, until you have 50 to 500 employees, your business, its brand is you. And
That's
consequently, your DNA is going to infect every aspect of your business. So I find it really, really interesting that you're kind of taking your personal experience and leveraging it into something that can be absolutely sustainable, scalable, and open-ended for you in terms of your business. Do you see any kind of obstacles for the growth and expansion of your business?
Just bandwidth. I think initially, you hit the nail on the head. If you're not a big company with 50 to 500 employees, your personal brand has to be attached to it. Early on, I was trying to keep it separate. I didn't want to get convoluted and everything like that. But then I realized that, if I'm behind it, I got to put my face behind it. I got to put my name behind it, and I got to share my personal stories to help amplify it. So I'm all in on, being synonymous with a frugal athlete. So when you're thinking of a frugal athlete, especially in the personal finance, financial influencer type of space, like the points guy or penny hoarder or all these other Miss Dow Jones, they put their name behind it first, and then now they've built it out where it's now full on media companies or consulting companies or financial platforms. And early on, I struggled with that, but now I'm all in on it. And then my biggest trouble right now is just bandwidth. You gotta make the podcast, you gotta make the content, you gotta consult, you gotta do all these different things. So if I don't have my systems and processes in order, I could get overwhelmed. But luckily, we do have a small team, and made a big emphasis of making sure the foundation is solid, so that when we do grow, we're able to handle the work that comes with that.
Yeah, you're facing a challenge that a lot of people face when they're thinking about building a brand, whether it's in their mind strictly a personal brand or a small business brand, because it's really important to be honest with yourself. Is this something I want to keep and eventually pass on to someone in my family, perhaps? Or is this something that I'd like to have an earlier exit involved with it? Like if you built a successful company in 10 years and someone came along and said, hey, we want to buy you out, would you be happy for them to walk away with whatever you've created? A lot of people, the answer to that question is yes, absolutely. But others are like, no, when I'm done, I'm going to take that business is open and turn that open sign around and say we're closed and it's done. And they're very honest with themselves because they know exactly who they are. Have you done that kind of mental exercise yourself where you've said, my ultimate end goal is to A, one thing, B, another thing?
Yes, I'm really big on like vision boards and manifestation, and kind of seeing, setting stretch goals, big hairy goals, all the stuff that you hear in like the proper business books. So I've mapped it out. And obviously, there's going to be you got to roll with the punches, and there's going to be things that take you off your course. But I do have my North Star, and that's kind of how I'm going about attacking every day.
When you say you have your North Star, when you say you have your North Star, what do you mean? What in your mind is that kind of focusing object in your life?
Specifically with Frugal Athlete or just in general?
Both. Are they the same? Are they different?
Yeah, so for me personally, Frugal Athlete is a springboard to some of the other things that I want to do in the sports business, fintech, ed tech space. Personally, I definitely want to be a key player from a work standpoint in the spaces and sectors that I want to be involved in. I'm really passionate about business development, strategic partnerships, ideation. So what does that look like for me personally? Love to be a partner at a top firm or running my own firm with the Frugal Athlete. A Frugal Athlete. Whether we sell it, my goal is to sell it to a partner and collaborate with a financial services platform or a financial media platform, whether it's the boardroom or Kneading Dough, which is a subsidiary of Uninterrupted, or even like a UBS, one of these players that are into the financial space as it pertains to athletes and money management. And then from a lifestyle perspective, definitely want to be close to my family. I'm really big about family. I'm the oldest of four siblings. Parents are healthy, want to stay close to them, want to be able to travel, and want to be able to leverage my time. I think that those are my North Star. Obviously, there's more that I'm going to be private about, but that's my North Star when it comes to understanding what I want, my passion, my purpose, and why I do what I do.
Oh man, I'm so glad to hear you say that you've done that work, because that's what it is. It's a little bit of work to say, not just, oh, I want to open a business or I want to build a personal brand, but I heard you literally answer one of my questions that I like to ask everybody. What is your yardstick? What is the most important stuff to you? And I'm not talking about I want to make six figures or whatever, anything like that. It's like, what really matters to you? You mentioned family being a big thing and being important to you. Well, that becomes a key part of who you are, not only as a person, but a key part of your brand as well, which means that it's probably going to become part of the culture of a frugal athlete as it grows and grows bigger. So I'm hoping, well, or let me ask you this question. If you were to hire someone, would you be interested in hiring someone who shares the values that you share? Or are you looking for someone that has a skill set that's so disparate from what you have that they can come in and they can do their thing and without necessarily sharing the same values structure that you've developed for yourself?
Oh, that's a great question. I think when it comes to like internal affairs, definitely have to share the same values. And it just makes the job much easier in terms of, when it comes to life, a mentor told me people care about three things: revenue, results, and relationships. And I want to be able to have good relationships with the people I work with internally because it will drive, revenue and results. But if I'm outsourcing something, like I need a podcast edited, or I need someone, to handle, let me say, like cold emails or something, that's something where I'm not forward facing with them. I could outsource. Obviously, you don't want to work with bad people, but when it comes to the values that they have, I'm not too worried about that as long as they can get the job done. But internal employees, internal friends, internal clients, they got to share the same values. We got to be able to get along. We got to be able to talk about stuff outside of work. You never want to just be zoned in on work. Obviously, when we need to get the job done, we get the job done. But I want to be able to have a relationship. How's your family? How's your kids? How's, where you guys planning on your bucket list? Let's go, you know, um, let's go golfing, different things like that, where it's not everyday work, work, work. Being a professional soccer player, I've had coaches that they can literally only talk about soccer. They don't have any idea of the world outside. And it's like, we do this every day. So that's my standpoint on that. But if it's someone, all right, we need this podcast edited real quick. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that.
Well, that's interesting. I really like the honesty of what you said there, because a lot of people will, I don't know, try to frost their cake with no, we share everything, and I only use best of breeds that are just like us and stuff like that. And the reality is, no, if there's an accountant that you're working with that's providing offsite services, you want them to have a very strong culture and values and stuff like that. But do they have to be a carbon copy of you? No. But it's nice that you have very clearly created lines or sections where it's like, it doesn't matter there, but it does matter here. Because if you're going to be part of the frugal athlete family, you better value the same things we value. And that's really, really important. And then all of a sudden, that becomes kind of the stuff that you ask questions about if you are interviewing people to perchance become part of your team. All of a sudden, those questions are the ones you ask, not the standard HR questions that frankly don't reveal much of anything.
No, you're exactly right. I found like those questions, you're actually able to get more of an answer around whether they can do the work or not, rather than, okay, are you proficient in Excel? Are you doing, like, no, how do you spend your free time? Like, what's your value on family? Why do you even want a job from this standpoint of compensation? Is it because you want to be able to party and do the stuff, or, you want to be able to send your kids to the best schools? Like, the way you answer those questions are the way I'm able to make a decision, or other people, for example. And then, like you said, when it comes to how you associate yourself, this is obviously, uh, uh, you're an expert in branding, that can affect your brand. And I don't want to be like, how can I say it? Not unsympathetic, but you are who you hang around. And if you're hanging around not so good people, you might not have a good brand.
Yeah, amen to that. And, we could talk about that a long time, and we're coming to the end of this first week's episode, but don't worry, Amobi's going to be back with me next week to dive into more things, including his Okugo Foundation, which I want to talk about, which is very, very interesting, especially from my perspective as someone who wants to ask questions about the personal brand ideas and foundation behind it. But we'll be talking about that again next week. However, I would love for listeners to have a chance to know where they could get in touch with you or find out more about what you're doing with a frugal athlete. Where can they engage with you on social media?
No, thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to talk to you next week. For me, Amobi Okugo at Amobi Says on all social channels, at www.afrugalathlete.com. If you want to check out our website, we do have a free stock investing course, as you can see, at frugalathlete.marbleteams.com /path-1. We're all about helping people, and I'm always willing to connect, collaborate. So please reach out.
Well, there you go. It's really interesting for someone like me to have a professional athlete on the Nonfiction Brand podcast, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not heavily into pro sports, but I am into smart athletes. And Amobi certainly is that. So we're going to be talking more next week. And listeners, I would love to have you chime in or wherever you'd like to on social media and let me know what you would like to see on the Nonfiction, or what you would like to see and hear on the Nonfiction Brand podcast. And you can do that by just emailing me at dp@nonfictionbrand.com. Let me know what you think. I would love to know. The other thing I'd love for you to do, could you really be a great listener? Could you subscribe to this podcast? Can you like it, subscribe, refer it to others, and most of all, review it wherever you get this fine podcast for free? Because that really does help other people find it. And I would be forever, let me say that again, and I will be forever grateful to you for that. Well, that's about it for this week on the Nonfiction Brand podcast. Once again, I am your host, DP Knudten, and he is
Amobi Okugo, aka a frugal athlete.
Well, there you go. And we'll be talking at you again next week. Bye-bye. Okay, so live stream listeners, guess what? Fast forward, we're now into next week already. So I'm going to lead into the podcast very gently by saying, your last name, Okugo, Okugo. It's kind of funny because my daughters are big fans of the band OK Go. And actually, I've noticed that you use OK, you go as kind of a call to action for something that is absolutely associated with the personal brand called Amobi Okugo. And that is the Okugo Foundation. Or do you pronounce it Okugo Foundation, or is it the OK You Go Foundation?
The OK You Go Foundation, a play on words.
Yeah, well, exactly. And tell us what that play on words actually describes and is all about.
Yeah. Thank you so much again for having me back-to-back weeks. So I always wanted to do something with my last name, Okugo. As Nigerian, as a first-generation Nigerian American, people would always, kind of butcher it. And I was always saying, "Okay, you go," like "Okay, you go" as a way to spell it. People were like, "Wait, okay," and from there, I just always stuck with me. But then when I started my foundation, I realized, all right, let's make it OK You Go, because what we're about with our foundation is, helping children from underserved communities with resources to be, I don't want to say self-sufficient, but help them figure out pathways to better themselves in their communities. Obviously, we're passionate about soccer, so we do free clinics in the soccer space. Passionate about financial literacy, so we do financial workshops, educational workshops on personal development, career development, life skills, different things like that. And then social programming to help, how can I say, expand the horizons. So we do field trips, we'll have guest speakers come in, activations, different things like that to just, change the narrative. And that's what we've been doing. It's been a long process, but this year we've really taken a couple strides in how we make some impact and create value. And that's what we're all about. I'm going to try to continue to do that.
Well, I'm fascinated by that because, one, good on you for starting a foundation, but I got to be a little mercenary and say good on you from a personal branding perspective for having that as something that actually I don't want it to sound too mercenary, but it actually supports the whole a frugal athlete platform that you're creating as well, because it's always nice to have that, hey, I can help you, but you can help me by the way that I'm giving back to the community and the things I'm doing there. So it's not either or, they're mutually supporting and wonderfully complementary to each other. Did you set out with that in mind, or was it more of a, I want a foundation just because I want to give back? What was your thinking when it came to starting the Okugo Foundation?
So that's a great question and point. I think initially for me, full transparency, I just wanted to create a foundation to do more than what we had to do as professional athletes in our communities. We would do like appearances and activations within the community as community ambassadors from a foundation standpoint. But it was like we come in and then leave, so there was never like an ongoing relationship. So I wanted to do something through my own foundation where I could do it how I wanted and create impact the way I wanted. It's just funny how God works. The fact that everything's kind of intertwined with what I'm doing with the Frugal Athlete, personal brand, and the foundation, where it's not like, all right, I'm doing this thing here, I'm doing this thing there, I'm doing this thing here. It's like everything is combined and meshed together to make it like a strong, formidable brand, as you say. And I actually have you to thank in terms of, helping us with our kind of like our wording, our mission, because initially the way I had it worded, if you remember when you were on my podcast, it was kind of all over the place in terms of us trying to do everything from a foundation standpoint. But now that we understand, all right, this is how we create impact, this is how we do it in the community, this is who we serve, this is how we go about it. Um, we've seen a lot of growth from the numbers that we've been able to reach and the support that we've been able to get. So as you say, when it comes to branding, it's really important to have a united front across all the different things you do, but also have a direction of how you are specifying what you do and your purpose.
Oh man, I'm so glad to hear that, because I always say about branding, what having a brand does for you is it gives you the most powerful word in the world as a tool you can use every single day. And that word is no. No, I'm not going to do that. No, this is certainly a shiny object, but it's off brand for me. The question, is it on brand or off brand, becomes this objective measure, not a subjective judgment, that allows you to focus your efforts. Because let's face it, none of us have unlimited energy, time, bandwidth, dollars, emotional support for everything. So you've got to be able to say no. And you can do that when you know exactly who you are, what you do, and how you do it. Now, when you describe some of the programs of the Okugo Foundation, you mentioned you do soccer clinics. I wonder where that comes from. Of course, it comes from you. And then you mentioned financial literacy. I'm like, wonder where that came from. That again comes straight from you. So what you didn't say was, we teach kids, we do theater productions, or we have a dance studio, or we fix cars. None of those things matter to you. Now, if you were a pro athlete, for example, a pro athlete, I guess I would consider something like NASCAR to be athletic. If you were a NASCAR driver and you had a foundation that taught kids how to work on cars, I go, makes total sense to me, totally brand aligned. You aren't teaching people how to ski jump. You're teaching them soccer, which is something that in depth and is actually a part of who you are as an individual. That's what I talk about and what any brand strategist talks about when they say you need to be aligned. Soccer clinics, 100% alignment. Financial services, financial literacy, 100% alignment. If all of a sudden someone says, you know what, we need to buy a boat. No, we don't. That is totally off brand. Now, you could say we might do a team building exercise on around water, but sitting there drinking alcohol probably is not the thing we do. We might go kayaking because we're that type of organization. You know, it's that shade of difference that makes all the difference, you know? And that's what you can do when you have a brand. And clearly you've thought pretty darn deeply about that. And I am so glad that focus is yielding the kind of results that you want for yourself, for your company, and for your foundation.
No, thank you so much. And like I said earlier, our conversation helped as well. And it's important because what you may think your brand is, obviously you have final say, but it's important to see your brand is half of what you think yourself, but how other people perceive you, and it's a combination of between the two. And then you create the alignment, you create the purpose, you create the direction and the mission, and how you go about it. So it's not something that we had right off the bat, but something that we've been able to build and cultivate. And now that we have it, like you said, once you have it rock solid, the the benefits and everything else will just start to come.
Oh, I I'm just nodding my head off my neck here because it's so true. I always like people to understand that having a brand, one, it does allow you to say no, but it also gives you that foundation from which to grow in a way that is completely true and completely you. I like to come up with these little bumper sticker sayings so that people actually remember what I'm talking about when I actually talk about such things. And your brand clearly has that alignment, and it clearly is based on who you are as a person, who you are as an athlete, who you are as an entrepreneur, and it's going to aid you as you move forward in a wonderful, wonderful way. What kind of stuff do you have coming up on the horizon for both a Frugal athlete and the Okugo Foundation?
No, I appreciate you asking. So with the Frugal athlete, we're trying to build out a whole plethora of curriculums and courses that athletes can use, and not just athletes, people that want to learn about financial literacy through a different way. Athletes are natural trendsetters. So our idea initially was, if athletes could start talking about money from a frugal or efficient way, the people that follow them, the young people that want to be them, will start thinking about financial literacy in a different way as well. So we have, we want to build out almost like a curriculum of sorts where you could take how to be a frugal athlete, and we have a whole modules, lesson plans, different things where you could pick it a la carte or just one-off courses, and then kind of go from there. Hopefully that would be one big driver of revenue, and then the others just continue to content, grow, partners, sponsors, different things like that. From the Okugo Foundation perspective, that's what I'm most excited about. I have roots down in Sacramento now, so to be able to partner with some of the local community centers and school districts and offer them different services across soccer and educational workshops. We've already locked in a couple of partners, but we're looking to do it with more and actually build out a program. Right now, I figured I would tell you, we're trying to develop a compound interest program where it will cover health and wellness through soccer and education in the form of financial literacy, and hopefully implement those with the communities and programs and schools that we are partnered with.
Oh man, you can do that now because you've literally defined pretty darn clearly who you are, what you do, and how you do it in a way that other people can see you demonstrating via your podcast, via your activity in the community, via your professional activity as well. Again, it's that alignment thing. Everyone knows what to expect because you are, one, communicating it, or as I like to say, you're projecting it out into the universe, if you will, but you're also protecting it, keeping it true to what it is, and staying on task by being aligned with who you are, what you do, and how you do it in every step of everything that you're doing. So I applaud you for doing that. I mean, do you see a lot of athletes that are actually prepared for the inevitable day where they're no longer a player?
even the ones that are most prepared aren't really prepared. It still hits you. I think right now you're starting to see a new wave of athletes that are thinking about it. Obviously, it's still an adjustment from just like an identity standpoint, a routine standpoint. Athletes are so used to routines. You got to build your routine once you're done playing. But I think you will start seeing those ESPN statistics that we talked about last week start to change from a number perspective. I think athletes are starting to see the benefits of starting now while they're playing, rather than waiting till they're done and trying to pick their feet up again. Um, but you can't, you as prepared as you can. You're never going to be fully prepared for that for that shift.
Yeah, I have no doubt. But one of the things that I really like about the financial literacy stuff you're doing is that you're giving an opportunity to plant seeds in kids early who may have absolutely zero exposure to anything to do with finances beyond dollar bills and change they find in the sofa or out, on the street someplace. Because I remember as a kid, money was this abstract thing that I knew I needed, but I didn't know how to get it. And, mom and dad took care of everything until my mom marched us on down to the bank and opened up savings accounts for all of us 4 kids and said, okay, here's your bank book. And, well, what's a bank book? This tells you how much money they have in the bank for you. This is my money. Yes, it is. Can I get it now? No, you cannot. But this, all of a sudden, just having that bank book was like, for me, and of course I'm an old guy, so bank books actually existed. That made money real, even though that money was never in my hands. And all of a sudden, wheels slowly started turning, so that when I got my first job in high school, or even younger than high school, I think it was in junior high when I got kind of a paper route type job or something like that. All of a sudden, it's like, I can't spend all this. I need to put some of this away. Why? A rainy day? I don't
Yeah.
know, but I just know that part of what you do when you get money coming in is you put some of it away. That has to be taught. And that, I think the kids that are going to become the next generation of athletes are the ones you're talking about, which is they've seen the cautionary tales out there of the 30 by 30 films, the broke films, where it's talking about athletes that just, it's gone. But then they've also seen the huge success stories too. So, maybe I want to be the huge success story and not the person who goes broke. How can I do that? So I think it's programs like yours that are going to be planting those seeds. So good on you, Amobi, for
Uh,
doing that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Well, we're getting close to the end of this episode, but before we go, I do want to let people know how they can contact you or get involved or see what you're doing. Obviously, you've got a frugalathlete.com is your website for your
No.
business, and then the okugoffoundation.org is the website for the Okugo Foundation, and it's spelled exactly as you'd think it would be, Okugo foundation.org. Definitely check those things out, but you've also got a podcast. Why don't you tell people about that for a minute?
Oh yeah, thank you so much. So, a Frugal Athlete Podcast Network, it's an audio channel, a podcast where we interview athletes and stakeholders that help athletes with their money in any way, shape, or form. It could be a brand manager, social media manager, financial advisor, lawyer. We interview all different aspects as it relates to athletes and money management. Speak to them about kind of top insights, experiences, different things around athletes as it relates to money management and money. Um, and that's essentially it. I was gonna plug in some other podcasts that I do, but we're gonna focus on branding for this specifically. And yeah, so our OKUGoFoundation.org website is still under construction, but you can check it out and see some things how to support if you want to get involved. And frugalathlete.com for all things a frugal athlete. I have my personal website, AmobiOkugo.com. And that's essentially it.
Well, one of the things that Mary Poppins taught us all is that a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Well, in this case, the medicine is financial awareness, financial education, stuff like that. For some people, the sugar might be that you're talking with athletes, you're talking with sports agents, you're talking with financial advisors who deal with athletes whose names you may have heard of. That all of a sudden makes it a whole lot more interesting than talking to someone about 401ks and, ETFs, exchange traded funds and stuff. All of a sudden, if it's sports with a little bit of finance, that sounds interesting. So that's where I would advise anyone who has someone in their life who is a sports junkie, who might need a little bit of financial kick in the pants, if you will. Check that out. A Frugal Athlete podcast, which I think is available just about any place you can get podcasts for free, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Well,
and we had you on. We have a bunch of wonderful guest experts that speak about their experiences and how athletes can think differently about money.
yeah, well, everybody should think differently about money because
That's true.
we've got some stuff going on right now with cryptocurrency and NFTs and stuff like that. Do you guys touch on that at all? I mean, because those crypto, I think is going to be around for a long, long time. NFTs, I'm not sure. Non-fungible tokens. I'm not sure that I want to own anything that goes away if the power goes out.
Yeah, we definitely touch on all that and more. We try to give an unbiased perspective on all these different topics. No way, shape, or form are we giving financial advice, but we are highlighting how other people see it from their perspective, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a financial advisor, whether it's an agent, whether it's a brand manager, whether it's a crypto expert or guru. We get insight. We highlight their stories on our platform, and we also give insight. So, for example, we did something where 10 athletes that are in Bitcoin right now, or 10 athletes that have been paid in Bitcoin. So you're hearing about it, you're getting their perspective, but we're not telling you got to invest in Dogecoin, you got to invest in Shibu. We're not saying that, but we're going to give you information for you to make a better financial decision for your own personal financial playbook.
Well, you've been a very good steward of your financial responsibility by constantly underlining the fact that you're not a certified financial planner or anything like that. And I think that's important for people building a personal brand to understand. There are bright, shining lines you cannot cross. You can be a coach, a financial coach and stuff like that, but I'm not a certified financial planner. Because you can never say that too much, because when you're talking about something like cryptocurrency and people hear what they want to hear. So
Exactly.
if I can give anybody advice, especially in those areas, I guess the kind of landmine areas where I want people to be very, very clear about it are medical things, anything to do with medicine, anything to do with health, anything to do with finances, anything that has health applied to it, like financial health, your personal health, your athletic health, whatever. If it's got health associated with it, be very, very careful and very, very transparent and open about your certifications or lack thereof. Again, what you're doing does not stop you from doing what you're doing, but it does stop you from doing what you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah,
Recommending specific stocks or et cetera, et cetera. Anyway.
I'll take this one from someone that's very smart in the space. You can project your brand, and you can protect your brand. Someone named by the name of DP.
Oh my God. I am
Yeah.
so glad that you paid attention to that, because brands need to be protected. And
for sure.
again, everybody on this podcast who listens to it knows that I've worked on at ad agencies that worked for companies like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola's been making sweet, brown, bubbly water since 1886. And it's one of the biggest brands in the world.
Mhm.
And it's a commodity. It's a cola drink, or it's a soft drink. It's a series of soft drinks. No, it's not. It's a brand. that has such loyal fans that they will redo their entire basement media room as a Coca-Cola room. So they go down there and then they watch their favorite sports teams on the big screen TV. You know, that happens because brands are powerful. Anyone who follows a sports team, and only one sports team, knows the power of branding. I'm here in Wisconsin. The biggest brands here are the Green Bay Packers, the Wisconsin Badgers, Big Ten football, and basketball, and the Milwaukee Brewers. And I hate to say it, but the Brewers are kind of the weak sibling compared to the Packers. I mean, talk about a brand. The funny thing for me, whenever the new recruits are coming out, the ones that get chosen at the draft by Green Bay, none of them are upset to be going to this small little town, relatively small town up in Brown County, Wisconsin, because they're going to one of the founding brands of the NFL. To be able to say that you spent your career playing on the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field, that means something, because those are brands. That's the power of brand, my friend. When you get a kid from Southern California going, yay, I'm going to Green Bay, Wisconsin, you know you've got a brand.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, what's up for you with your career? Are you kind of in the final act of it, or is it going strong?
Yeah, so for me, I'm thinking about hanging them up, but we haven't decided that yet. Gonna, sit down with my family to talk about it. I've been away since I was 13, playing soccer at a high level. Went pro when I was 18, and it's 12 plus years in the game, over 200 games across all competitions. So maybe take a MJ gap year, maybe continue playing this year. There's still time to decide, or just retire and move on to the business ventures that I'm very passionate about. Fortunately for me, I've positioned myself in a unique way to take advantage of some opportunities, but I think you'll get an announcement in the very near future.
Well, you've positioned yourself in a unique way because you've positioned yourself to be yourself. There's only one Amobi Okugo. You are not a poor imitation of somebody else. You are the perfect representation of yourself, and that's exactly what a personal brand should be. So good on you. I think you're doing a great job. I'm really excited to see you as you move forward in your life to entirely new challenges. But I will tell you, you have laid a foundation, or I'm going to call it a launch pad. You have a rocket on a launch pad ready to fire because you've identified who you are, what you do, and how you do it very, very clearly. You're communicating that now very, very clearly. And you've got very clear possibilities in your, let's call it, wide open niche that you've chosen to occupy in the space. And that is what I think of as 100% opportunity. So congratulations, Amobi. That's it for this week on the Nonfiction Brand Podcast. I want to thank my guest, Amobi Okugo, for coming on. What a great conversation. And again, I would love for people to like, subscribe, refer, and review this podcast wherever you get it for free, because that really does help other people find it. Until next week, this is what I always say at the end of every podcast. I'm DP Knudten, and he is
Amobi Okugo, aka a Frugal athlete.
And I'll be talking at you all again next week. Bye-bye. All right, so that's the end of the podcast. Now it's the end of the live stream. I want to thank everybody for watching, and hope that you'll check out the episode when it comes out. It'll probably come out in a couple of months because I do have a backlog of interviews in the can. But I'll be in touch with Amobi. If he's got anything going on, I'm sure I'm going to hear about it. And if we can do something to coincide with the release of a new product, the publication of a new book, believe me, I will do everything possible to make sure that his episodes of the Nonfiction Brand podcast come out at the same time, because good deeds all around, keep giving, and eventually you're going to get. So until then, this is the end of this episode of the Nonfiction Brand Podcast and the end of this episode of IMNSHOW, in my not so humble opinion. That's it for me, and I'll be talking at you all again next time.